welcome to another battle report. We're going to have a Empire versus High Elves 2000 points battle. This is our third battle report that we upload to the channel, and going to start with the lists. My brother in this occasion brought a noble on a dragon, a big unit of Sisters of Avalon. Actually, all the units that you see that they are archers, they're all Sisters of Avalon. He's trying to use them in a combo to try to destroy the steam tank, in which, because of the armor pain and all the ignore covering rules that they have, alongside with I think it's a hero that they have that allows them to have like extra armor piercing. So they're trying to use that synergy in order to destroy monsters or heavy hitters or things that have a lot of armor save. So lots of Sisters of Avalon, and his main unit is Buzz over there of I think it was Spearman, just regular Spearman. He's got a couple of heroes over there, Ishaya, his battle standard bearer, and he in this battle actually he didn't brought any. I think it was this one that he didn't brought any magic. So yeah, pretty much that's it for his list. It's a very range focused list. On my side, I brought my big buzz of 60 state troopers, shields and light armor only, as I'm going to use them as a bunker. And I put a warrior priest, my battle standard bearer with a Gryphon banner, my general with a, I think put the sword of battle or the barrel daggers, I don't remember. I think I put the barrel daggers on, just to make as much damage as possible or as much hits as possible. And Laurels of Victory, of course. My warrior priest, my captain, battle standard bearer, my general, and my level 4 wizard with battle magic with an arcane familiar, so so I can choose all my spells. It's accompanied by 2 detachments. One is of I think it was 60 militia, something like that. I put it, and the other one, the other detachment is, as you can see, there's 3 dices with the number 6, just to exemplify that there is that's the number of soldiers that are also on that unit. I think it was like a big unit of swordsmen with light armor and shields, then another big detachment of state troops, and another one of I'm focusing pretty much on melee, and another one of just militia. So I'm trying to, my whole idea, because of course these are experimental lists, so we can get a handle on all the units and to see what's more convenient or what is better for the whole for the game whatsoever. So we're experimenting with a lot of things, so keep that in mind. Now I also added a steam tank to my list. I put it all the way on that side. I was trying to outflank him, but I didn't realize that he had a dragon, so that's going to be a little bit of trouble because he can pretty much just pin my tank down, and I cannot use the grinding wheels ability to just bring him down. So I can use the cannon. I could try to just shoot a couple of cannonballs at him, but the strength of the dragon, I don't think it's enough. The strength of the steam cannon, I don't think it's going to be enough to cause significant damage on the dragon because of the amount of wounds it has, and the strength of the steam cannon is not that powerful. It's just strength 8 against toughness 7, so you're hitting on a good 3, so of course it's never bad, but it's not ideal. And the problem with the cannon that it's hooked on the steam tank is that it only does multiple wounds D3 plus 1, so it's not great. But anyway, so that is pretty much my list of the Empire. So let's see what happens in the next turns. Here, as you can see in the next picture, there's just an aerial view of the battlefield. My brother taking a couple of pictures as well. So Since his camera is much better than mine, I'm going to try to add a couple of pictures of the battlefield that he took, so you can have different views of the battlefield. But let's see for the turn number one. So for turn number one is pretty straightforward. My strategy is that I may have uh, miscalculated the length of that um, like little filter or gap that is in between the rock and that tower, uh, that cathedral tower that I put over there, which actually has a man at arms at the top. I didn't realize that I put him over there, but yeah, well, in any case, it's like it's just the decoration, let's say. So everything is moving forward. I didn't move the tank in order to not get charged in the first turn by the dragon, but I shot, I think I think I shot the steam gun at it, made a couple of wounds. As you can see already, the Sisters of Avalon are causing some damage to my units. Fortunately, because of the amount of soldiers that I got on my units, I didn't have to make any panic tests yet. But of course, it's not pleasant always to receive this sort of damage, and taking in consideration also that I got militia over there, and when militia breaks, it's very difficult to bring them back to battle. Of course, you get the horde rule, which by extra lines you get leadership 10, so you can reroll, so you can roll their leadership on 10, but they don't get the reroll ability. So you got two chances out of 12 that they can pretty much just keep running and abandon the battlefield. And you cannot use the rallying cry because that goes to the general, and they don't benefit from the battle standard bearer reroll ability. So, but I believe that they are very good. Not necessarily the best, but I believe that they are good in order that they can get to melee and throw some weapons. So they got some shooting weapons, kind of like pistols, their own way of because it says throwing weapons. So I imagine because of the militia's nature, it's gotta be broken bottles and whatever, because they're like sort of like a piratey themed. So yeah, they're troublesome. So I imagine they're throwing rocks or bottles or something like that to the enemy. So it's a good 9-inch range weapon that you can use. You can make stand and shoot with it, and before you just like go into full melee against somebody, so you can. I think the best thing to use them is kind of like chaff units, so you can have some stand and shoot, and maybe as a smaller detachment just for main units or something like that. I think that's a better combo because eventually they're just gonna get killed and they're gonna break. They don't have any armor capacity, so anything pretty much that you can shoot at them is just going to bring them down. But anyways, everything moved forward. Perhaps I try to cast Oaken Shield. I try to make my prayers so that I can have some uh, resistance against shots or something like that. But as I see in well, by the picture, I don't think I was able to cast anything. So yeah, or perhaps that they already the unit has Oaken Shield, and that's how it withstand all the shots from the Sisters of Babylon. So let's see for the next turn what happens. Now the dragon moved as well. He was probably looking to charge my steam tank, so hopefully I can stand a little bit more of time without getting killed by the dragon. So let's see. Alright, so next turn, pretty much I lost. The dragon is closing in. I suppose something slowed me down. I tried to go further, but my units were stopped in. Oh no, it's the elves turn. So probably he took a couple of more shots on my units. As you can see, bad news. The dragon used its breath weapon, his breath weapon, yes, against my militia, and oof, just took such a big chunk out of them, and then charge into them. Of course, the charge came later. He just angled himself in that position and then just unload the breath weapon. Now here's the thing: we thought because we haven't used or we haven't played for a while, we thought that you could use the breath weapon while you're engaged in combat. And that's what created all that pool of wounds out of my militia, because of course he charged. He had stomp attacks, his monster stomp attacks, the claws, the noble, and then the flaming attack. It took a big toll on my militia, so I pretty much just destroyed them. I'm expecting them to break and then not recover them. Maybe he pursues. So I'm getting completely attacked by the flank, on the flank by the dragon, and that's not a good thing. Perhaps maybe I can just try to charge him with my steam tank so I can pin him up for a little bit, and then just push my main unit to the front because I'm trying to get this to combat as soon as possible. But sometimes my spells, like the arcane urgency, I think is the name of the spell that you get in the battle magic, where you can just push your unit and movement with your movement characteristic a little bit further in the battlefield. I think I got dispelled because as I see, I not moving too much, and of course my other unit of state troopers is taking a big beating out of the the arrows from the sisters. So yeah, that is nasty. It's very difficult when you go against high elves. You gotta take in consideration that you're going against an army that primordially, or its best assets are magic, range, and as I think speed as well. You'd have to take that in consideration. Like it's a very elite sort of army. It has a lot of good choices, but I think their main killer thing is it's the range. Of course, you got other units, you got other armies like the Wood Elves and things like that that have a lot of ambusher units with great capacity of range. But yes, yeah, they got their set of abilities. I think they're very alike, high elves and wood elves, obviously because they're from the same kin, but they got a lot of things in common. And I think that when you're going against a high elves army, well, yeah, you gotta take in consideration that you gotta bunker up a lot of your main characters because the range is just insane from the longbows and the abilities that they have and the capacity to create armor vein. And of course, if they are a restrained army that's just going to stay in place, waiting for you to just come to kill them, um, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of damage before you get into melee. So take that in consideration before you go against them. But yeah, so far this has been the turn, and not looking really good for the Empire. But let's see what happens in the next turns. All right, well, major disaster. The dragon obviously, it repositioned itself. It went, I think it destroyed my militia, and then it pursued him, and obviously he catch up with them and kill them. And then that led to my big boss unit to be able to charge him. So of course I charge in the rear of the dragon, which it's okay. I mean, like it doesn't matter for terms and purposes of combat resolution. You cannot consider charging a dragon from the rear as 2 extra points when it comes to combat resolution. Why? Because dragons have 360, monstrous creatures have 360 degrees. So you don't flank them, or you don't get the rear. You only get the charge bonification. So I charge them with my main unit, which is a unit that is it's mainly designed to just break other units with all of its bonifications when it comes to combat resolution, expecting to not get so much damage out of the unit that is fighting against it. And I charge them on the other side with the rest of my state troopers. And the reason why I did that also is, okay, I need the extra points, but I also need to keep them in melee, so I nullify the ability of most of my brother's army to just shoot at my guys. So that was the main strategy, but I'm hopeful that I can break that dragon if it doesn't cause a lot of wounds. Again, we did a mistake and we allowed the dragon to use its breath weapon while engaged in combat in melee, and that just changes everything, of course, because you get maximum capacity of the flame range, and that is just it's just insane how much wounds can it cause. So everything it stays like that at the moment. He hasn't charged with anything or have any reaction to my charges, except just staying there for the battle. And my tank is trying to, well, it's just too far away. We're already in turn two, going to three, something like that. I think we're in three. But yeah, I mean the tank is trying to get to the battle, but it just takes too much time with its steamroll to try to get to a good position. But at least he can unload some of its pigeon bombs or steam cannon shots to try to make as much damage possible to the units that are in front of mine. So let's see what happens for the next turn. Yeah, well, as presented in this picture, of course, there it is the situation that we have with the flaming weapon that we were using the flaming template into my units because we thought that the dragon, which makes sense in a way, like if you think when they engage a dragon into melee combat in most of the films that have involved dragons throughout history, yeah, they always use their breath weapon when they're engaged in melee combat. So it just makes sense that you use it also in a game like this. That was the logic behind what we said. But no, any breath weapon or flame weapon that uses the template cannot use it if it's engaging in melee. So of course it's going to get all these shots, all these wounds, and that could pretty much counter the whole synergy that I work with my big unit with three extra flanks and drive from banner and everything, because everything gets if you make sufficient wounds, it can get to that point in which you are making the same amount of points that I'm making on my combat resolution, and then and they can actually break me, and that's not a good thing because that's the idea of my unit. I am supposed to break units, not be broken by other units. So let's see in our next pictures what was the outcome of this. Yeah, well, I think he made the smartest move that he could do. He shifted or moved his Sisters of Avalon uh, from the unit that is closest to the rock. He pivot them in order to face the steam tank and just unload arrows until perhaps the damage is so severe that it could just destroy my steam tank. It has a good couple of wounds, but if it just keeps shooting volleys at it, it's just not gonna make it. Now, when it comes to the dragon, my main unit standard, but I think he used the template against the detachment, and then it charged from two sides, and then the unit got pursued and it got destroyed. So, wow, yeah, I mean, like, of course, there is things that we are using or rules that we are using that are not supposed to be done. But this is the whole idea of experimentation. I mean, like, it's not gonna be perfect on the first times that we play. But of course, yeah, like using a breath weapon when you're engaged in melee is just gonna cause so much damage. And all that damage of the flame weapon, plus the charges of his archers that he just decided to charge just to get extra points and just break the unit, just completely demolished it. So yeah, I got already. This is almost settled because I have lost two big chunky units and he hasn't lost anything. So it's not looking very good for the Empire. But yeah, well, let's see in the next pictures if we can perhaps turn this around. Because the dragon is isolated now against the main unit. So let's see if perhaps it breaks it. And break it did. The synergy that I used with my main unit, it actually worked. And then I was able to pursue the dragon, and then I clashed with his main unit. Now, when it comes to that, I'm just this is exactly what I was expecting, or this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted the unit to be able to get to melee so it can break massive units and then just send them to the border of the map, perhaps, or just keep winning combat resolutions. That's the main idea of it. And of course, I got the wizard and I got a bunch of heroes over there to cause as much damage as possible, and then use the bonifications in the case of the general to just multiply my amount of points than I get on the combat resolution. So my idea with my main unit is just to win combat resolutions, to win, yeah, combat resolutions and just break other units. But now that I am dwindling with numbers, I I have a difficult time seeing how can I overturn this. In the case of the high elves, they're pretty much just chugging like bullet fire at my steam tank to try to chip more damage into it. And but at least, yeah, I broke the dragon. Maybe most probably he's going to come back on the next round because he has very good leadership. I think he has a leadership of 9, so it's a good roll. It's a roll that obviously it's going to pass. Well, not obviously, but it has a higher chance of passing. And after that, yeah, if the dragon comes back, starts attacking my unit, it is very difficult for me to try to make something happen. But let's see what happens in the next round. Thus, as predicted before, I broke his unit, and his spearmen run out of the battlefield. That's why I tell you that that the main strategy of this unit is just pretty much breaking other units. Like it's a tough unit in terms of combat resolution. Of course, the main counter to it is if you have another unit that has heavy hitters, heavy, um, let's say, champions and things like that, and they can start challenging my champions and just slaughtering them. Because I mean, like champions of the empire are not bad. They're the cheap choice. They're cheap, and they do their part. If you use them in good synergy with your army and things like that. But definitely, they're not the best when it comes to combat and things like that. They are just us, just regular humans. So of course, when it comes to um, more elite choice of HQs of other races, let's say dwarves or orcs or maybe chaos warriors or demons or things like that, yeah, expect your generals and your captains and warrior priests and witch hunters and everything, yada yada, to get completely slaughtered. And that could pretty much counter your whole strategy. Why? Because they're going to issue the challenges and you have to answer it with something. So it's good to have also a couple of characters that you can throw out for the sake of it, and keeping the ones that can still work with the synergy. Like the first one, you can just throw the witch hunter first, or first perhaps go throw the priest first, because at least the witch hunter is going to allow you to have the synergy to just re-roll hits depending on what enemy are you taking. Like for example, I didn't take the witch hunter over here because this is not one of the armies that you can get the ability to have hatred against them or to re-roll like fail hits with them. The only ones are just demons, this mutation like beastmen and heretics and undead and things like that. This is the armies that you put a witch hunter over there to gain that ability. But when it comes to this doesn't work, so I didn't put them. But for example, if you get in the case that you have to use death, the best thing that you can do when then somebody issues you a challenge is first throw the priest, because all right, if you lose the priest, at least you still keep the hatred and you still keep the banner and you still keep your general with his daggers or with his sword and his laurels of victory, and you still keep the guy from banner, and you can still break the other unit with your combat resolution. Then I would say like the next thing that you can just, if you get an issue in challenge and a challenge issue to you, then you can throw the witch hunter. And then lastly, I mean, you can go for the battle standard bearer, I would say, or maybe the wizard, because you're already in combat, so you cannot cast any more missiles and no more enchantments and things like that. The only things that you can cast is just assailment spells. So unless you have unless dictated by the rules that you can still do these things, I don't know who can, but I would say that your third best choice is to throw the wizard. Now you're going against a very elite unit with a lot of heroes in it, and I think that's a very good succession of throwaways that you can do to still keep the synergy in the unit. And of course, you can use also the sergeant of the unit and throw it to him to the to whoever issue a challenge. Because if it's gonna get slaughtered, well, at least that one is like the least important. And then you go again with this process, you know. So like recapitulating what I was saying, first throw the sergeant, then throw the priest, then throw the wizard, and then throw the witch hunter. That's how you should throw them. Like, if they have enough characters to just keep issuing and issuing and issuing challenges, then of course at that point you're gonna have to throw the captain, and then you have to throw the fucking sorry for dropping the F bomb, but yeah, then obviously at the end you have to throw the general, and then there's no escape from it. You know, you just got to take the the challenge, probably you're just gonna get slaughtered. But at that point, you should really be thinking about how are you making your synergies work. And of course, you get the off chance that that happens and it's terrible. And well, whatever, you learn from these mistakes and you get better in the next time. Maybe you get another unit to counter that unit, you know. But so far, going back to the game deck, the Spearman break, and apparently, yeah, well, the dragon just recover, but it cannot move because it just rally on this point. But I'm expecting another charge from him, probably in the next turn. Yeah, well, excuse the blurry image, but this is an image of the next round. Obviously, he charged with his main unit, with his archer unit, sorry, to my main unit on the flanks to try to cause as much damage as possible. I forgot to mention that that unit that you see close to my main unit is a unit of Shadow Warriors that he spawned to try to take away any of my war machines, which I didn't brought to this battle. But yeah, they're coming in close from behind. They cannot make any shots because I'm locked in combat, but they can still make significant damage if they get close to. Now, what I forgot to mention is that the dragon actually attacked me again. So what I did is I used an old rule that used to be, uh, well, that was functional in Warhammer Fantasy, but it is not anymore, so it's a good thing to keep in mind. It was a rule called Make Way. That you could take your HQs and you could just move them throughout your unit to put them in the combats where you see fit. So of course, what I did to try to win the combat resolution in this case is I allocated my hits or my attacks into the units of archers that were attacking me, because the dragon was also charging me. So I allocated all the wounds and attacks into his units because I knew that the general could cause more damage with his weapons and everything, and I could double that damage if the attacks were targeting the archers. I knew that if I targeted the attacks against the dragon, I wouldn't cause any damage. And then by the end of it, the dragon would just cause so much damage in this to my unit that even with my synergy and with my battle standard bearer and everything, I would just keep losing. So I did that, and I actually won the combat. So I broke the dragon again, and he fled because then I won all of this combat resolution. So I broke every single one of these units because even with the charges and everything, I still won. By the only problem is I didn't got my extra ranks. Why? Because when you get attacked from the side, you don't get the extra ranks. But with sufficient attacks from my HQs into the archer units, it was enough to this to break all the units that were charging me. So that was a lucky thing. But uh, taking in consideration that we used the rule from before because of this tight situation, but you cannot move anymore your HQs from the position that they are in order to attack other flanking units, because I think it's fair, and I think it's best for the combat outcome for whoever is charging, you know. So it's just fair. It's like if somebody charges you from the rear or from the flank and you just pivot the unit for some reason. That doesn't make any sense. No, you're locked into combat to the front, or you're looking to the front, and then you get the damage from the flank. And you just have to eat it, you know, because you allow the enemy unit to flank you. And when you allow that, yeah, well, you're doomed. But using obviously this set of rules, and in this instance, I was able to break again the dragon. But let's see what happens in the next turns. Well, in the next turn, pretty much it happened what I was expecting. I charged the dragon again because why not? It's the only wise thing that I thought about doing. Of course, I killed some of the units of the archers. I killed more archers, and then since I broke them, I was freed and I charged the dragon again. Now my idea is to try to get the steam tank as close to try to grind those sisters as much as possible with my steam tank that is already sustaining so much damage, so I don't know if it's going to be able to, but I think this was the end of the game, or it was getting close to the end of the game, because I think the sisters managed to just destroy the tank at one point, and with the attack from behind and some of the attacks from the dragon, I think that was it. I think the dragon caused sufficient damage that I couldn't break it anymore. Let's see if I got another. No, I got another picture. But I think this was pretty much the end of the game, and it was because the sisters unload another from the shots that they took. There was just one wound left on the steam tank, then it blew up. And then by that point, I didn't broke the dragon to make it flat, and it was just too much. It was just too much units that he had, and I was already losing my points. And I think by this point we were like in round six, turn six. So yeah, that was the end of the game. Pretty much, it was a victory for the High Elves. Excellent battle. Of course, there's a lot of rules that have to be ironed. There's a lot of flaws that have to be ironed. But overall, it's like I think the game was is pretty exciting, pretty good. There is things to take in consideration, like the amount of characters that are in a detachment. It was not that optimal because they didn't really reach their goal. The main boss unit of with the battle standard bear and all the synergy, of course, it worked better. But I think the Steam Deck would have worked better if it was side by side with this unit. And maybe I could just allocate points better into some war machines or things like that to cause some damage from afar. Instead of just putting these big units of militia that are just eventually just gonna get slaughtered and they don't serve absolutely no purpose. So this is it's a good thing to take into consideration. But yeah, it was a pretty good battle. Uh, any other thing that I can say? Well, on the side of the High Elves, it was well played. Of course, there were some mistakes in consideration with the flame attack and everything. But of course, we are learning. We are trying to iron as much flaws as possible every single game. So game by game, you would start seeing like a progression and our games just getting better and our rules starting to be in place and everything just working the way that it has to, right? Because yeah, of course it takes time and you get into some situations in which you don't know how to operate or what comes next. But of course, you just read the rules again and then you get better and better. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this battle report. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next battle report. Thank you very much.